I was halfway up the staircase when it disappeared beneath my feet. 1 second I was climbing, my hand on the cold wooden railing. The next I was on my knees, palms pressed flat against a blank stretch of hardwood floor where the stairs should have been. I swear I heard them vanish, like a breath being sucked out of the house. The strangest part? I wasn't even shocked. Not right away. It was like my brain expected it, like it had been waiting for that exact moment, though I'd never once had a thought like that in my life. The circular hallway stretched out around me, dim light coming from no clear source. Every door was shut, every wall curved. No corners, no straight lines. Just a looping circle that led back to where I was kneeling, heartbeat hammering, trying to convince myself I hadn't lost my mind. That's when I heard it, claws on wood. Slow, deliberate. A dog's gait, but heavier, scraping as if whatever it was didn't quite belong here. I turned my head, and at the far end of the circle stood a black shape. It wasn't really a dog, more like the absence of one. A void shaped into 4 legs and a head, edges bleeding into the air like smoke. It lowered itself to the floor, watching me with no eyes at all. And then it started moving. I scrambled backward, palms slipping against the polished wood. My shoulder slammed into a door. It didn't budge. The thing didn't rush me. It just walked, deliberate and patient, like it had all the time in the world. Every step was a scraping drag of claws that made my stomach twist. "Hey!" I shouted, my voice cracking. "Get back!" It didn't flinch, didn't growl, just kept moving, as if I wasn't really there, like it was following a script I couldn't see. I reached for my phone, not to call anyone. My brain wasn't working that logically, but to use the flashlight. As soon as I flicked it on, the beam cut through the hallway and lit up the thing's body. Except there was nothing to light up. The flashlight just disappeared into it. The beam should have hit the opposite wall, but instead, it got swallowed whole, like shining a light into a hole in the world. That's when I realized it wasn't walking on the floor. Its legs weren't making contact with the wood. They ended just short, the scraping sound still echoing, but its paws hovering half an inch above the ground. My hand was shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Then the nearest door handle started to turn. The handle rattled, slow at first, then with sharp jerks like someone impatient on the other side. I pressed my back against it, my whole body trembling. Please be a person, I thought. Please just be someone who can explain this. The void dog stopped. Its head tilted, like it was listening. The handle froze mid-turn. Silence. Then, without warning, the door behind me yanked inward. I fell backward into pitch black, my flashlight clattering across the floor. The beam spun wild arcs before cutting out completely, like the battery had just given up. The darkness wasn't normal darkness. It was thick, suffocating. I couldn't even see my hands in front of me. I scrambled forward, back toward the hall, but the floor under my palms had changed. Cold, smooth, almost like tile. And then, light. A dim green glow flickered on overhead. I wasn't in the hallway anymore. I was in a narrow corridor lined with peeling linoleum and metal doors with square glass windows. The kind of place you'd see in an old hospital. Except the hospital was empty. Dead quiet. Far down the hall, a figure stepped into view. White dress, white cap, a nurse. She didn't walk toward me. She just stood there, head bent at an unnatural angle, her hair falling forward to hide her face. My chest locked up. I tried to call out, but my throat felt swollen shut. And then she started walking, except her feet never touched the ground. Her movement was wrong. Smooth, gliding, like she was being pulled on an invisible track. The closer she came, the more the air thickened, heavy with the sharp tang of antiseptic and something sweeter, rotting flowers. I stumbled backward, palms scraping the cold linoleum. The walls curved ever so slightly, and for one sickening second I thought I was back in that circular house. She lifted her head just enough for me to see the jaw. It wasn't hinged right. Too wide, too slack, hanging as though the skin alone kept it from falling off completely. I finally managed to whisper, "Stop." She did. 10 feet away, frozen mid-glide, like someone had pressed pause. The silence pressed in. Then she opened her mouth. Not to speak, to scream. A shrill, metallic wail, like a modem connecting or a siren breaking. The lights overhead flickered, stuttering, and behind her I saw movement. Dozens of shadowy shapes writhing against the far wall. Too many limbs, too many faces melting into each other. I bolted. The corridor twisted, doors blurring past me. I grabbed the nearest handle and ripped it open, and found myself standing on the side of a road. A rural highway, dark forest stretching on either side. Behind me, the hospital corridor was gone. Ahead, under the weak orange glow of a streetlight, the nurse was already waiting. I froze under the streetlight, my breath fogging in the cold night air. The road was dead quiet. No cars, no crickets, nothing. Just the nurse standing there, her cap tilted, her arms limp at her sides. She wasn't moving. But I noticed something new. A black shape crouched just beyond the edge of the light, half buried in the shadows of the trees. My stomach dropped. It was the void dog, watching. Its head tilted the same way hers had, like they were connected. I took a step back. Gravel crunched under my shoes, loud as a gunshot in the silence. Her head snapped toward me. Not just her head. Her entire body jerked like a marionette. Then she raised one hand and pointed down the road. I didn't want to go. Every part of me screamed not to. But my legs started moving anyway. One step, then another. The void dog slipped into the ditch and paced me along the tree line, its body dissolving into the dark as if it was made of the same stuff. I kept walking until another light appeared ahead. A farmhouse. 2 stories, pale paint peeling in long strips. The windows glowed yellow like someone was awake inside. Relief hit me so hard I almost cried. I broke into a run, leaving the nurse and the dog behind. The gravel tore at my lungs, my throat raw, until I finally reached the porch and banged on the door. The porch light flicked on. The door creaked open, and I was staring into my own face. It was me. Same hair, same clothes, even the same scratch on my palm from when I'd hit the floor back in that circular hallway. My double just stood in the doorway, blinking at me like I was the intruder. "Jesus," he said, my voice, my cadence. "What the hell are you doing out here?" I couldn't speak. My tongue felt glued to the roof of my mouth. He stepped closer, onto the porch. That's when I noticed something off. His shadow. It didn't fall in the same direction as mine under the light. It leaned toward me, stretched and warped, like it was trying to crawl into my skin. I staggered back off the steps. "Stay the fuck away from me." He tilted his head, just like the nurse, just like the dog. And then he smiled. Not my smile. Too wide. Teeth clenched too tight, like they were about to shatter. Behind him, inside the house, I saw movement at the top of the stairs. Dozens of people, no, versions of me, standing shoulder to shoulder, faces slack and waiting. Every one of them turned their heads in unison. My double leaned in close, voice dropping to a whisper only I could hear. "You shouldn't have answered the door." Then all the lights in the house snapped off. The porch was dark. The road behind me was dark. Even the stars overhead, gone. I was standing in a black void again, and something was breathing right next to my ear. The breathing was slow, wet, too close. I spun, swinging my arms blindly, but there was nothing, just empty blackness that felt thicker than air, pressing against my skin like water. Then a whisper, right against my cheek. "You let us in." I stumbled back, and my foot hit solid ground. Light flared all at once, harsh and white, stabbing my eyes. When they adjusted, I was standing in a room I didn't recognize. Bare walls, one metal chair, and a glowing laptop on a desk in the center. The screen was already on. A blank text document filled with a single line. "Do you remember the stairs?" I staggered forward, every nerve in me screaming not to touch the thing. But my hand moved on its own, sliding the chair back and sitting down. The keyboard clicked under my fingers. No. The cursor blinked. Then new text began to appear, keystroke by keystroke, as if someone, or something, was typing from the other side. "They weren't yours. They never were." I slammed the laptop shut. The room went dark instantly. When the lights came back, the chair across from me wasn't empty anymore. The nurse sat there, head bent, jaw loose, and perched in her lap, like some grotesque pet, was the void dog, its claws scraping against the metal seat. Both of them turned toward me at the same time. I shot up from the chair so fast it toppled backward, the crash echoing too long, like the sound was bouncing around a space much bigger than the room I saw. The nurse didn't move. Neither did the dog. They just stared, or whatever counted as staring. I backed into the wall, searching for a door, a window, anything. That's when the laptop sprang open on its own. The screen glowed white, text slamming onto it faster than any human could type. "Don't turn around." My stomach dropped. The nurse shifted, her head creaking as it snapped upright, like a marionette string had been yanked. The dog raised itself off her lap, claws hanging just above the chair, scraping the air. Another line of text. "It's behind you now." I froze. My breath came in short bursts, every muscle in my body screaming at me to not look. But I couldn't help it. Slowly, so slowly, I turned my head. And there I was again, standing shoulder to shoulder with me. My own face grinning, lips trembling with the effort of holding back laughter. He leaned in so close I could smell my own breath and whispered, "You're the one that doesn't belong." Then the lights blew out, and something grabbed me by the throat. Fingers clamped around my neck, my own fingers. I could feel the callus on the middle knuckle, the scar from when I'd cut myself opening a can. It was me choking me. I thrashed, nails raking at skin, but there was nothing solid to grab, just pressure, crushing, relentless. The dark swallowed everything except the rasp of my strangled breaths. Then voices, hundreds of them, overlapping, whispering through the black. "Stay down. We were here first. Give it back." The grip tightened until stars exploded behind my eyes. I thought I was dying. And then, as suddenly as it began, I dropped. Gasping, palms slapping against warm asphalt. I was on the road again. The same rural stretch. Same orange streetlight buzzing overhead. But it wasn't empty this time. The road was lined with people, dozens, maybe hundreds. All of them me. Every age, every version I could imagine. Younger, older, thinner, heavier. Some wore clothes I didn't recognize. Some were covered in blood. All of them staring. In the middle of the crowd, standing dead center of the lane, was the nurse. Her jaw unhinged wider and wider until it wasn't a jaw at all anymore. Just a black circle swallowing her face. The void dog padded out of it like a portal, its claws sparking against the asphalt. And every single one of my doubles whispered in perfect unison, "Go inside." Behind me, a house I'd never seen before loomed out of the dark. Its front door was wide open. I didn't want to move. My legs shook so bad I thought they'd give out. But the pressure of 100 of my own faces watching, waiting, was worse than the house itself. I turned toward the open door. Inside, only darkness. One shaky step, then another. Gravel crunched under my shoes until I hit the porch. The second I crossed the threshold, the whispers outside stopped. Dead silence. The door slammed shut behind me. I spun, heart hammering, but there was nothing there. Just the door. No knob. No hinges. Just smooth wood that hadn't been there a second before. I was trapped. The floor beneath my feet creaked. I realized it was a spiral staircase, curling downward into blackness. Each step seemed too shallow, too narrow, as if it had been built for something not quite human. With no choice, I started down. As I descended, the walls curved tighter, squeezing in until I had to turn sideways to fit. The air was damp, heavy with mold. Halfway down, I heard it again, the claws, scraping against the steps below me. I froze, my hand pressed to the wall. The sound didn't move closer. It stayed just far enough that I couldn't see what was making it. Then, from below, a voice that was almost mine, but not quite. "Keep going. You're nearly home." I gripped the railing, if you could call it that. The wood was soft, almost pulpy, like it had been rotting for years. My fingers sank into it as I forced myself to keep moving. The voice below echoed strangely, doubling back on itself, like someone playing a recording of my own words at half speed. Step after step, the spiral kept winding. I should have reached a basement by then, or hit solid ground. But the stairs just kept going down. I counted under my breath. 50 steps. 100. More. The air grew warmer the deeper I went, like walking into the lungs of something alive. The scraping claws matched my pace. Whenever I slowed, they slowed. Whenever I hesitated, they stopped completely, waiting. I finally couldn't take it anymore. I whipped the flashlight back on. For a split second, the beam caught something below me. Not the dog. Me. I was standing on the steps maybe 20 feet down, head tilted up at the exact same angle as I was tilting mine down. Our lights collided, beams blinding each other in perfect sync. And then his face split into a grin I knew I'd never make. Teeth long, jagged, too many of them. He lifted one finger to his lips, shushing me. Then the steps between us crumbled into nothing, leaving a black gap where the spiral had been. And still, the claws kept climbing. The gap yawned wide beneath me. 20 feet of pure void, steps broken clean away. My double across the spiral was gone, swallowed in the dark. But the claws kept coming. Scrape, scrape, scrape. They weren't below anymore. They were above me. I whipped my light upward and nearly fell backward. The void dog clung to the underside of the staircase like a spider, its body stretched wrong, legs bending in ways that made no sense. It was climbing toward me upside down, claws gouging through the wood. I bolted down the steps, not caring if the whole staircase collapsed under me. The sound of splintering wood followed, closer with every second. Finally, my foot hit solid ground. The spiral ended in a narrow hallway, walls damp and glistening like something had been breathing against them. I sprinted forward until the passage opened into a cavernous space. At first, I thought it was a church. Rows of wooden pews stretched into the dark, an altar at the far end glowing faintly. But the air was thick with rot, and every pew was filled, not with people, but with mannequins. Hundreds of them, all identical. Blank faces, stiff arms at their sides. As soon as I stepped inside, every single head turned toward me. And from the altar, my own voice boomed out, distorted and low. Sit down. Service is about to begin. I froze at the entrance, the stench of mildew and something coppery thick in my throat. The mannequins didn't move again. They just stared. Every blank face angled perfectly at me, like they'd been waiting for this moment forever. The voice echoed through the rafters. My voice, but warped, stretched too deep. Take your place. I backed away, but the pews shifted. Not with movement, but with sound, wood groaning, creaking, as though the mannequin's weight was suddenly unbearable. Then one of them stood. Its joints cracked like bones snapping. Slowly, it shuffled into the aisle, shoulders stiff, head lolling too far to the side. Another stood, then another, until the entire congregation was rising, row by row, in perfect unison. I turned to run, but the doorway I'd come through was gone. Just a blank wall slick with condensation. I was trapped. The mannequins shuffled closer, their footfalls soft but synchronized. The air hummed, a low vibration that crawled under my skin. My ears popped like I was descending in an airplane. At the altar, the faint glow sharpened into a screen. A laptop, just like the one from before. Its text blinked, one line flashing over and over. Sit, 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 sit. The mannequins reached the first pew, only feet from me now. One lifted its hand, 5 plastic fingers, stiff and claw-like, and pointed to the altar. Take your place, my voice boomed again. Then the void dog stepped into the aisle. The mannequins parted down the center aisle like they were making way for it. The void dog's claws scraped the stone floor, each strike sparking faint orange. Its body flickered at the edges, bleeding into static like a signal half received. It padded slowly toward me, head low, jaws open just enough for a sound to leak out. Not a growl, not a bark, but the faint hum of electricity. The mannequins all dropped to their knees at once. The crack of plastic hitting stone echoed like gunfire. They bowed, perfectly synchronized, their heads bent in worship. The screen at the altar glowed brighter. New text appeared, keystroke by keystroke. Sit or be replaced. My throat tightened. I backed into the front pew, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. The dog stopped just feet away, its head tilted, and then, like a camera shutter snapping open, the black void of its body expanded, unfolding into a doorway. On the other side, I saw me, sitting in the pew, calm, hands folded like a proper congregation member. My copy smiled, lips stretched too wide. The mannequins' voices finally broke into sound, a low, single word chanted over and over, buzzing like static. Replace, replace, replace. The dog stepped closer, its doorway widening. I was being given a choice. Or maybe I never had one. I couldn't breathe. The void yawned wider in front of me, the copy of myself inside grinning patiently, waiting for me to slip into its place. The mannequin's chant grew louder, vibrating the walls, shaking dust from the rafters. Replace, replace, replace. The screen at the altar blinked one last line. Sit down. I stumbled backward, shaking my head. No, no, this isn't real. The instant I said it, everything froze. The mannequins, the dog, even the text on the laptop. Then, in the silence, I heard it, a stair creaking. Behind me, I spun. The spiral staircase was there again, leading upward, back into the dark. Each step was glowing faintly, like the only way out. I didn't think. I ran. The moment my foot hit the first glowing step, the chant exploded into a scream. Mannequins surged after me, their joints popping, plastic limbs snapping as they crawled over each other to reach me. The void dog lunged, its jaws splitting wide enough to swallow the entire staircase. I climbed faster, faster, until my lungs burned. Steps blurred beneath me, spiraling into nothing, but I couldn't stop. And then I slammed through a door. Hardwood under my knees. Cold railing under my hand. I was back in the circular hallway. The stairs had returned. But this time, they only went down. Down. Always down. The staircase curved away beneath me, steeper than before, the kind of angle you'd tumble straight to your death if you slipped. My hand clutched the railing, splinters digging into my skin, but I couldn't stop moving. Some pull in my chest kept dragging me forward. The house was silent except for my own breathing. No mannequins. No chanting. No nurse. No dog. Just me, circling downward, step after endless step. At first, I thought maybe this was the end of it, that I'd been spat back into something normal. But then I noticed the shadows. They didn't match me. Every time I passed under one of the dim overhead lights, my body cast a shadow that lagged just slightly behind, like it was hesitating. On the third lap around, I realized there were more than one. 4, 5, 6 shapes trailing me on the wall, each warped just a little more than the last. One of them twitched when I didn't. I froze. The shadows didn't. They kept walking. One peeled off the wall entirely, stepping onto the staircase in front of me. Its face wasn't blank. It was mine. Mouth hanging open. Eyes rolled back. It reached out, fingers stretching too long, and whispered in a voice that scraped the inside of my skull. Almost there. The shadow me stood perfectly still, one hand outstretched, waiting. The others twitched against the walls, rippling like reflections on dark water. I tried to back up, but the railing behind me dissolved under my hand. Just vanished. My palm swiped through empty air. The staircase shuddered. For a second, I thought it would collapse entirely, but instead the steps ahead grew longer, stretching toward the shadow me like the wood itself was reaching for it. Its mouth opened wider, wider, until its jaw split down to the chest. A sound poured out, low and metallic, like a dial-up modem buried under static. The other shadows peeled off the wall one by one. They crawled onto the steps, their movements jerky, unfinished, like stop motion played too slow. I bolted forward, straight at the one blocking the stairs. It didn't move, didn't even flinch, just let me slam shoulder first through its chest. For a second, I was drowning in cold, like plunging into black water. My vision fuzzed with static. When I stumbled out the other side, the staircase was gone. I was standing on the shoulder of a road again. The rural highway. The forest pressing close. Except this time, the nurse wasn't waiting under the streetlight. I was. Dozens of me. All standing in a perfect circle around the asphalt, leaving one gap wide enough for me to walk through. And in the center of that circle, sitting patiently, was the void dog. They didn't blink. None of them. Dozens of me, surrounding the road, shoulders squared, lips pressed tight like they were holding back the same secret. Each one angled their heads slightly toward the gap, silently urging me forward. The void dog sat in the middle of the circle, still as a statue. Its body bled into the asphalt, the edges dissolving into liquid black that rippled outward like an oil slick. Every few seconds, it let out a sound, like claws on glass, echoing from inside my skull. I whispered, "What do you want?" All of them answered at once. My voice, layered, amplified, rattling through the trees. "Go inside." I followed their gaze. At the end of the gap stood a house. Not the farmhouse, not the spiral place. This one was worse. Because it was my house. Same peeling paint. Same crooked shutters. Same porch light I left on every night. But it was wrong, too. The windows were too dark, too deep, as if they weren't windows at all but holes punched into the siding. The roof sloped at angles that shouldn't exist, bending in ways that made me dizzy to look at. And above the front door, a single phrase was scrawled in dripping black letters. "Welcome back." I turned to run, but the circle of me closed tight, dozens of hands reaching out, pushing, forcing me toward the porch. The void dog rose to its feet. I fought them. I swear I did. I shoved and kicked and screamed until my throat burned raw, but every hand on me was my own. Every grip knew exactly where I was weakest. They didn't drag me. They guided me, gently but firmly, like a parent steering a child who doesn't want to leave the playground. Step by step, up the porch, toward the door. The void dog padded behind us, claws sparking with each strike of asphalt, the sound of metal on bone. The door opened before I touched it. No hinges, no creak, just a mouth unsealing itself. Inside was nothing. A blackness so deep it ate the porch light whole. The copies released me at the threshold. My legs shook so badly I nearly collapsed. Behind me, in perfect unison, they whispered, "You belong to us." I turned back, desperate, and saw the circle collapse inward. Each of my doubles dropped to their knees, bodies twisting, bones snapping out of place. Skin split, melting into shadow. One by one, they collapsed into the same black sludge, flowing toward the house like rivers feeding a sea. The void dog stepped past me and into the dark. Its body dissolved into the same liquid, disappearing without a sound. And then the voice came, low, guttural, vibrating the doorframe itself. "We've been waiting for you to come home." The darkness inside shifted, swelling like something massive was about to push through. I stumbled back, but the porch behind me had vanished. There was only the doorway, only the black, and it was pulling. The pull was unbearable. My heels scraped against wood that wasn't there anymore, my hands clawing at a frame that bent and buckled like warm wax. The blackness inside surged, swallowing the walls, the sky, everything except me. I screamed. It didn't matter. The sound didn't carry. The dark ate it whole. And then I was falling, not down, not forward, but inward, like being sucked through the center of my own chest. The void wasn't empty. It was crowded. I felt them before I saw them. Hundreds of hands brushing against my arms, my face, my throat. They whispered all at once, my voice layered over itself 1,000 times. "We told you not to look. We told you not to climb. We told you not to answer." Shapes flickered around me. The nurse gliding backward into the dark, her jaw a gaping circle. Mannequins bowing in rows. The shadow versions of me, twitching against invisible walls. And the dog, always the dog, its claws raking sparks against nothing, pacing, waiting. The whispers grew louder until they weren't whispers anymore, but screams. My screams, echoing from every angle. I begged. I cried. "Please, let me out." The blackness pulsed, tightening around me, pressing me flat, squeezing every ounce of air from my lungs. Then, silence. And a new voice, calm, even, unmistakably mine. "You're already out. I'm the one in now." The dark split open like a curtain. I saw my house again. Only it wasn't me standing on the porch. It was him, my double, smiling at my wife through the open door as she asked why I was late. The door shut, and the black slammed closed around me.